What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton, and today we are on part 4 of my series on SQL and data analytics for beginners. Guys, I'm so excited for you to be here today because we're going to jump even further into SQL syntax than we did in the last episode. So real quickly, before we start on anything, I just want to let you all know that if something happened to your tables, meaning that you might have changed the values, trying to mess around with your newly learned skills, or you just want to make sure you have the exact information that I have, in the description, I have all the syntax you need to enter into the query tool to get the exact same data sets. So now that I've covered that and stuff, just in case if you guys needed it, there's good news. Speaking of entering in data, we are not going to enter in any new values into our tables, and we're not going to be creating any new tables. So don't worry about that. We're just going to be using our distribution channels table and our refinery clients table. So in this episode, what is our focus going to be? Our main focus in this video is going to be on taking our information, selecting specific information that we want, and also being able to organize it in a way we want, grouping it and ordering it in the exact ways that we want. And we'll learn a few other things along the way that are really important. So anyways, guys, let's not hold back any longer. Let's jump right in and start applying situations where we can use SQL syntax. So in the first case scenario, I want to reframe back to what happened in the last episode of our tutorial. Do you guys remember how in both of our tables for the status sent and status received, we had some blank values? I'll go ahead and select statement. Oops, excuse me, I gotta change my query tool. Select all from dis channels. And if we do that, we can see what I was talking about, which is the status received has some blank values. And the same goes for our refinery clients in the status sent column. So basically what this meant in a conceptual basis is that we aren't sure whether or not the order has not gone through in the sense of either being sent or received. And it's not false in the sense that, no, this order got rejected or, wasn't able to be sent off to the distributor properly. So basically it's pretty much a work in progress as of now. So in this case scenario, we are going to be contacting our distributor manager. Her name is Sarah. And Sarah is someone who is in direct contact with our distributors. So for example, let's say Car Station Company gets its delivery. The delivery has been received. And now that value needs to be true in the column. Well, in this case scenario, Sarah is going to be getting the call, and she's going to have it updated on her physical spreadsheet. And we need Sarah to go ahead and do her weekly update. So far, we've gotten 4 out of our 6 rows entered in with their proper values for the status received. However, there's 2 more. So I'm going to go ahead and just ask her and get an update as to whether or not we've gotten any changes to our status received values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to, first off, before I even do what I was going to originally actually do right there, I'm going to specify the columns that I want her to change. Giving her this whole table, it doesn't seem very kind because I really want her to work on looking at two of the different columns. So we're going to modify our select statement for the distribution channels. And we're going to get rid of the star in this case. And we're going to use specific column names, which is really nice because we can specify what information we want to display in the table for Sarah. So what 2 tables do we want? Well, do we really need location? No. In this case, do we need the sale ID? Yeah, you could use that, but in this case, I really just want to get the name matched with the status received because that's going to be the most visual and easy for her to pop out. However, in a case where we had multiple sale IDs from the potential same companies, we would use sales ID as well. But in this case scenario, we only have 1 sale for each of the names. So we're just going to keep it simple and use the distributor name, and then we're going to use a comma, much like we do when we list multiple columns. And we're going to list status underscore received. So we specified what's going to be displayed, and this is what Sarah will see when she plugs it into the query tool. Now, we're going to use what's known as a comment to give her our request. So there's two different types of comments you can use. There's a single line comment, and then there's a multi-line comment. I'm going to show you how to do a single line comment. So this is usually to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. And in this case, all you have to do is use two straight lines. And basically, next to it, we can simply type what we want to. And it knows that everything on this line is going to be a comment. So we could say, hey, Sarah, please update any status underscore received values. Okay, so that's a pretty simple request there. We'll email this over to her, and it'll have the query set to go to these two values on the database. And she has access to it too, but she's been recording everything on physical paper, and it's her job to plug it into the database. So in this case scenario, we have told her what we want. However, let's say we want to, be a little more social, kind of tell her like, thanks for doing all this work and stuff. And we can't really fit that all in one line, or at least it's not going to look nice. So we can use a multi-line comment. And how you do this is you do a / and then you use the star. Now it's going to highlight all that, but we're going to close this multi-line thing. And the reason it's doing that is because we haven't set a closing for the multi-line comment, so it's going to instantly highlight it all yellow. So don't freak out. Don't worry about it. The first line we're going to say, hey, Sarah. So we're just going to, it's almost kind of like we're writing it like an email. Hey, Sarah, please plug in any updated values on the status underscore received column. Thanks so much for your hard work. And then we'll go down here and say Nick. And then we're going to close off our comment with a / with a star and a /. So there we go. So Sarah can now see a multi-line comment that says, hey Sarah, please plug in any updated values on our status received column. Thanks so much for your hard work, and I can mention that my name is Nick. I could not usually fit that all onto one line. However, when I email this to her, or if I communicate to her, it's basically going to keep that from interfering with the syntax. So you can just simply copy this over. So, anyways, we've got that done, and that scenario is good to go. And Sarah will update the information for Car Station Company. All right, so now that we've sent that off to Sarah, let's jump on to another scenario. In this case, we're going to have to use a little bit of imagination to really get the use out of what we're going to be teaching here, but I'm going to emphasize why that is. So, our tables are relatively small, and if you look at both our distribution channels table and a refinery clients table, we only have one sale corresponding to each client of each industry. Meaning, for example, we only have one sale with Gasoline LLC for our distribution channels table. So, in this case scenario, let's imagine that we've gone a few years into the future and we have thousands of different sales we've done. We've really been growing as a company. And we have multiple sales with the same clients. They decided to stick with us, and Gasoline LLC, we have 50 sales with over the past few years. So that's pretty good. Now, let's say, for example, our objective in this scenario is to get a nice, clean list of the distributors that we work with. And we still just have the same 6 that we've worked with before. However, if we were to use a normal select statement with the column name, that being distributor name, and then from the table distributor channels, it would pop out a lot of the same values over and over again because we have thousands of sales and many of which are with the same clients. So in the case scenario where we've had 50 sales with Gasoline LLC, it would repeat on the table that we generate 50 times the same value in the sense of Gasoline LLC. So it would repeat Gasoline LLC literally 50 times. And we don't want that. We don't want a lot of cluster. We just want to get a nice list of the 6 clients that we work with. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use a little something extra in our select statement, and the word distinct. Okay? So select distinct is only going to show values one time. Okay? So I'll give you a good explanation of this in the sense of like what we were talking about with Gasoline LLC. Gasoline LLC will now not repeat 50 times. It will only repeat once because it is looking for distinct values in that column. So if we specify what column we're talking about, which is dis underscore name from dis underscore channels, we go ahead and run that query. Now in our scenario, with the small table we have and we only have the individual sales, it's going to look the exact same if we just did select dis name from dis channels. But in our imaginary scenario, we just completely shrunk that down to the actual names of the companies we work with. So that makes things a lot cleaner, and we're able to complete the objective of getting a nice clean list of the companies that we partner with on the distribution side. And we can do the exact same thing in our refinery clients table as well. All right, everyone, now that we've successfully done that, let's move on to another scenario. Let's say in this scenario, we want to generate a table that's going to show two columns. One that's going to show the refinery name that we are working with, and then also the units sold. However, we don't want to just see every single order. We want to see orders that are either 10,000 or greater in the sense of units sold. So how are we going to do that? Well, we are going to use a select statement, and we're going to specify what two columns we want. So the first one is going to be refiner underscore name, and we're going to use a comma to separate to the different column. And then our second column is units sold. Now that we specified what columns we want to display, we have to specify from what table, as usual, and then we're going to specify that we want refinery clients. Sorry, I was blanking there for a moment. And then the third thing we're going to enter in here is something we've used before. You might not know it right away, but if you look back to the previous videos, we have used it before when we were using specifying the locations for our different sale IDs, and that is the where clause. So the where clause can be useful in setting a certain restriction on a certain column. So to make sure that as so long as it meets the where clause, it will be displayed. If it does not, it will not be displayed in our case scenario. So we need to specify what column we're talking about, and we're talking about units sold. And just like how we were saying earlier that it needs to be greater than or equal to, guys, when you type it out, it is literally what you would think it would be. It's simply typing the greater than sign, or the arrow pointing to the right, and then an equal sign next to it, and then specifying what integer value we want it to meet. So that's basically saying for units sold, we want to display a table that says the refiner name and the units sold from the refinery clients table. That's where our source is. And then we're saying where we only want to display the rows where the units sold value is either 10,000 or greater. So let's go ahead and run that and see how that looks. And there we go. Perfect. It doesn't order them at all. It just simply shows you guys the table that we wanted to generate in the sense of showing orders that are over 10,000. So we can also do, just to show you for the sake of learning, we can also do less than or equal to 1,000. Oops, excuse me. We'll go run that query. And it's going to give us the other orders that are less than 10,000 or equal to 10,000. So this can be really good if you're trying to find your big clients or your small clients and just really specify down to what you're looking for in a sense of numbers. All right, guys, so yet another successful scenario. So let's continue on with another one. Let's say, for example, we have two sale IDs on our paper and we need to find the corresponding company with them. But let's go back to that imaginary scenario where we don't just have 6 rows on our table. We have thousands of different sale orders. It would be a pain in the butt to go through and scroll through all that information, right? So what we want to do here is utilize the SQL syntax and the query tool to find the information we're looking for in a much quicker way. So we're going to use a select statement. And the two columns we're going to want to display on our table are the distributor name, so dis underscore name, and we also want to display the sale underscore ID. This will correspond the name of the distributor with its sale ID, and we're going to get that from our dis underscore channels table. So in this case, we're going to be using the where clause like we did before, and we're going to specify sale ID because that's what we're looking to identify. And in this case scenario, we're going to be using something known as the in operator. Now, basically how this functions is we're going to put values in the parentheses. So in this case, our two sale IDs, 1001 and 1003, and we're going to close it off. And basically what this is doing is it's saying, okay, So when I go towards these rows, which have values 1001 and 1003 in the column of sale ID, you want me to print the other information for the other columns you have listed that match with the row. So for in this case scenario, we want to see the distributor name with the sale ID. So I'll go ahead and run the query if you guys are still kind of confused at how I'm describing this. So we can see now that the corresponding company with that sale ID, which is Gasoline LLC for 1001 and Quick Gas for 1003, we know that those match together now. We know the name of those the companies for those sale orders. And basically what it's doing, if you want to understand how the query was read, it's basically looking at the focused where the where clause is, and it's looking at the value we selected, so sale ID. So it's going to go down and look for 1001 and 1003. And then once it's gotten to those values, it's going to go over into the rows and say, okay, what column values do you want me to display? And it sees in the select statement we wanted the distributor name and we wanted the sale ID. So it built us a nice little table, and we got the values that we needed out of it. So yet another successful way to use the select statement in more specific ways, where we can start using the clause for the where clause, and then also the and operator, which can also be very useful. All right, everyone, moving on to another scenario where we can use the select statement to be even more specific. Let's say in this case scenario, we want to generate a table that has the refinery name and the units sold in that table. But along with that, we want to measure it in descending order of units sold. So we want to get a list of all the sales that we've done in the sense of units sold, and get it where the greatest sale is at top, and as we go down the chart, it gets smaller and smaller to our lowest sale. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's pop over to our query tool, clear our syntax, and we're going to do select, and we're going to select our two columns we want. So we're going to need refiner underscore name. And then we're also going to do units underscore sold. Okay, so we've specified our two columns, and then we have to do our table, which is in this case refinery clients. Now, the next part of this is going to be using something we have not used before, and this is known as the order by keyword. Okay, now order by basically means what it sounds like. We're going to be ordering it by one of our columns, and we're going to give it an seeing as in this case we want a descending value, we're going to apply a descending to it. So how do we type all that out? Well, we're focusing on units sold, so let's type in order by units sold. We're not going to be ordering by its name. We want to focus on the units sold, the numerical value in this case scenario. So how are we going to type descending? Well, in SQL, I don't know who created SQL, but I gotta say they love shortcuts. Instead of typing the full word descending, which would be the full word descending would be kind of a pain to type out, right? We're just gonna type in DESC for descending. Now, just to let you all know, for ascending, it's actually even simpler. It's ASC. So in this case, that we're doing descending. So we're gonna go ahead and run that query, and there we have it. We have our table that has all of the lists of our refiner names that we do business with, and the amount sold in the sales that we've done with them. So as you can see here, Titanium Refineries is our biggest client in the sense of individual sales that we've done with them. So we have an individual sale that was 50,000 units compared to our lowest one, which is Jackson Family. It's much more of a small mom and pop refinery where they've done 3,200 units sold. So as you can see, this can be very useful if you're trying to list your sales, really get a big image of your client base and which clients are really your highest demand point in the sense of selling your units out. So this can also be very useful in business terms and applying it into real world scenarios. All right, everyone, so now that we know how to use the order by keyword, we're going to learn another keyword. Let's think about this scenario here. So we want to generate a table that has the list of the distributor name, and alongside it we want to have the matching counties. Okay, so there's County A and County B, as you guys might remember from our previous episode, and that's in the location. column. However, in our table, we don't want it to be all scattered, and in fact, we want it to be the information to be grouped, but at the same time, we want to keep it ordered in the sense of location. So we can have it clean in the sense of county A being all together and county B being all together under that. So how can we do that? Well, we're gonna go up here and type select, and we're gonna have to think of our two columns that we want, which are dis underscore name and location. And then we're going to specify the table we want to get the information from, which is dis underscore channels. And then we're going to go down and we're going to use first, rather than the order, we're going to use the group by keyword. And we're going to decide the value we want to group it by, which is location first. Now we're going to have to also type the dis underscore name. It's just how the syntax works in SQL. And along with that, we are going to have to use, just to make sure we want to get the right results, is the order by keyword, and we're going to order by location. So it should prioritize grouping for location. However, it is also going to try and group display name because we want to display that as well. So in this case, we want to just give it that double check and order it by location. And of course, it's going to start in ascending. So it's going to start from A, which if we generate that, we have it organized as we want it. So this is exactly what we're looking for, guys. We've got Pit Stop, Gasoline LLC, Quick Gas, and Car Station clearly in County A, and Gas and Go and Real Energy at County B. So it's nice and laid out. It's a good combination of the use of these two different order and group by keywords. And it really gets us the information laid out in the way that we want it when we use our select statement. Alright everyone, I know you all are probably tired of all the scenarios we've been doing in this video. However, we only have one left to do in the video, and I think it's the most important and the most interesting, at least in my opinion, that I'm going to teach throughout the entire video. So let's jump right into it and think about logically what we want to do. So in this scenario, we want to build a table in the data output that utilizes the syntax in the query tool. And we're going to generate a table with two columns. The first column is the distributor name, and then the second column we want to use is the units sold at that distributor. However, there's a little bit of a catch here. There's no units sold column inside the distributor channel. And if we were to just use a normal select from statement, we can't do that because it's from multiple tables. And no, we can't just type in select columns that we want from table 1, comma, table 2. That's not how it works in SQL. What we're going to be using is something known as a join clause. And there's different types of join clauses. In this case, we're going to be using the inner join clause, but there's 4 different types. There's the inner, the left, the right, and the full outer join clause. Now, before I get into the specifics of how we're going to do this and get on with the example, I want to let you all know that in the description, there's a video that explains very well, probably one of the best ones I've ever seen, except for the Venn diagrams in the video. But other than that, everything else is very well explained in the sense of all the different types of join clauses. I really recommend you guys check that out because it is important that you learn that. However, it is most important as a beginner that you learn how to use the inner join clause. And this is going to be the most mainstream one that you use in your time doing SQL in most case scenarios. So let's jump right into this, guys, not push it off any longer, and let's finish this up. So basically speaking, we want to generate a table, and much like any other table, we have to have a select statement. So there's something that's different in this. Seeing as we're using multiple tables, we need to specify the table before we specify the column that we're going to be using. So here's how we're going to type it. So the first thing we're doing is the display name, but that's coming from the dis underscore channels, okay? And now that we've typed that, we put a period, and we're going to type in the column we want to use, which is dis underscore name. So as you can see, it highlighted it blue, and if you see that, you typed it right. So after that, we're going to put a comma, and we're going to put down our second column we want. And this is going to come from the refinery underscore clients table. And then we've got to put a period again, and we're going to specify what we want, which is the units underscore sold. And I'm just going to go ahead and enter that so you guys can see it, but you guys don't have to do that on your screen. And then we're going to go down and we're going to type in from to specify the tables we want. Now remember, we can't just type in both of the tables and put a comma between them. We're just going to type in the first one in this case scenario, which is the dis underscore channels table. And then this is where we're going to use our inner join. And we're going to plug it in right there. And on the right side of the inner join, we're going to put our secondary table, which is refinery underscore clients. All right, so now that we've got our two tables specified and the columns that we want from those tables, we need to use an operator. And this is not the standard in operator that we used before. This is the on operator. And basically, on operator is going to help us specify through what we type on the right to link our rows together in their proper order, in a sense. And not exactly their order, but to get them matching right based off a certain common value they share on their rows. So if you're confused with what I just said, I'm going to help explain it in a lot better way. Remember how we have in both of our tables a sales ID, all right? And this is what we use to match through our different tables. And we have them synchronized with the proper channel in the sense of their numerical value, the energy value. So basically, I'm just going to type this out, and if you're confused by it, I'm going to explain it in a second. So first off, let's type in dis underscore channels dot sale underscore ID. And then, actually, I'm going to bring this down so you guys can see it. Sale ID equal to the refinery underscore clients dot sale underscore ID. So this is what we have to type. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to execute it. And I'm going to explain to you guys how this worked, okay? So as you can see now, we have generated the table through our data output that we want, where it shows the display name of the company and the corresponding units sold to that company through the sale order that was matched with it. So how did that work? Well, basically what we did is we told it that we want the display name and the units sold to be matched on their corresponding sales ID value. Now we had that in both of our tables on each row next to these values and stuff. And basically by doing that, we were able to specify and make sure that they corresponded on their proper rows. And if you go back and you check the tables, these are matching in the sense of the units sold to these distribution centers that originally came from the refineries. So we have completed our table the way we wanted it. So we've completed the scenario, guys. This is the last one, like I said. We've pretty much wrapped up the video. So anyways, guys, if you have any questions, I know this was a pretty long episode, go ahead and leave a comment below and I'll try to help you out. If you had any problems, I'll try to explain them as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll see you all in the next video where we'll be covering even more SQL syntax. I'll see you all in the next one.